anyone who's watching this, I'm going to quickly go over the conditions that we've got at the moment, as well as what's going to be happening in the short term, medium term, and then longer term, because it's kind of three separate things are happening, and they're very clear defined, and they're very, very different. So at the moment, what we've got is a fair amount of snow on the west coast, down to fairly low elevations. You can see how on the Ben Nevis webcam, it's looking pretty white. It is mostly superficial, but there is a fair amount of it as well, with a lot of the ice being stripped in the thaw, potentially some very sheltered bits maybe hanging on, but I haven't seen any record of anyone finding anything that's held on. So that does mean that the mid grades are not in the best condition at the moment, so Green Gully, Combe Gully, that kind of stuff is not in very good condition. The steep stuff will need clearing out, but should be in decent condition once done so, and the lower grade stuff will be swimming, especially some of the gullies. There was a team got avalanched on number 3 last week, so do bear that in mind. Temperatures sitting around freezing level at about 800-900. The East Coast is a bit different. They haven't had as much, and the rock is looking very black, so do keep in mind your ethics if you are wanting to go out. So here's Loch Nagar looking not the best, and the northwest is looking fairly decent for the Great Ridges, but otherwise there's not too much in the way of snow, definitely nothing in the way of build-up. So at the moment we've kind of got as if there was a heavy snowfall in November. It's the kind of thing that you should be looking for, but there is a base, there is neve in filling the bends, gullies, and the Keystone, things like that, so you can get around, but bear in mind that base is sitting underneath this large amount of snow for any sort of avalanche ideas. So in the short term, what's happening is we've got this high pressure sitting over us, giving us slight easterly winds, which is really, really cold, and this is giving us a couple of days of pretty good conditions, clear skies and colder temperatures, and that's kind of holding on till Sunday, Monday time, before a southwesterly flow comes back again and the high pressure moves over Europe. So there is some ambiguity about when the high pressure is starting to move further to the south, but it is definitely going to be taking full control by the middle of the week, bringing westerly flows and lots of precipitation, warm air. So you can kind of write off Wednesday to Friday. In my opinion, it could be as high as +7 on the Ben for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's looking exceptionally warm in spring-like conditions. So here's the metagram for Inverness, and you can see it's really spiking at on Wednesday before dipping down again later, but I'll go into this in a bit more detail. And with that, there's a lot of precipitation as well, so it's going to be very unpleasant. Strong winds as well. Even though it is a high pressure, it's sitting just to the south of us, so we're south of the jet stream, so we've got the warmer air, but we've got the North Atlantic moisture bringing on this southwesterly airflow, so it's absolute worst outcome for this time of year. But over the next couple of days, with these clearer skies, we can hope that the snowpack should go to some consolidating, as we've got slightly longer days, so the temperatures are spiking about 2 o'clock now, and then clear skies overnight should give some freezing effects, so it should be fairly fast to consolidate before this is going to be a massive major thaw, major strip on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So if I bring us forward to Monday here, you can see the isobars indicating a more westerly wind and the temperatures just creeping in. So this is 850 hectopascals, so just above the top of Ben Nevis. Still holding on to -4 on Monday evening, going through to Tuesday. Here are these majorly warm temperatures coming on, but here's Tuesday evening into Wednesday, looking exceptionally warm, +5 degrees above the summits. So this is really, really warm. And this is coming through Tuesday, so the chance of getting out on Tuesday is going to be quite difficult. It's going to be thawing throughout the day as well. If I show you the freezing level coming through, I'll show you the whole run. So we've got fairly colder air mass at the moment, and it's just kind of coming through on the Monday evening. Let's just flick forward to that here. So this is Monday 6 a.m. We're still just freezing. That's going to be holding on to the current snow that we've got at the moment. Mountaineering routes, good idea. Steeper stuff, potentially not rhymed, but maybe some neve about, and it's just this massive, super warm area of mass coming through Tuesday. What time is this? 12 o'clock. 3,000 meter freezing level, 3,500. I've seen some bringing the freezing level up to 5,000 meters, which is absolutely ridiculous, and a lot of moisture in the air as well. And that's peaking Thursday, Friday, before hopefully a westerly flow will continue into the weekend. You can see the colder air is just trapped away from us, and it's really frustrating because it is a very cold air over the Atlantic, and it's just creeping in here Friday evening into the weekend, bringing colder conditions back again, lower freezing levels, and hopefully some rime with these stronger winds. So it's a thaw It's a huge thaw, but it's not a very prolonged thaw. You can see here in the ensembles, white line is the one you want to be looking at. It's the average of the ensembles. So this has it at Wednesday coming through, Thursday and Friday before tailoring off towards the weekend, going cold, just below average as well for the weekend, which is really good as the westerly flows come back. So the three different states that I mentioned earlier is this slightly colder section that we've got at the moment, and that's hanging on till Monday evening, Tuesday early morning. What time that comes through is going to be up in the air, so watch that. If you're desperate to get out Tuesday morning, you maybe could, but route choice is essential, and watching the time of the onset of the warmer air will be important. And then through the middle of the week is kind of, there's really not much point going out. The snow is going to be really, really wet. It's going to be raining lots as well. It's going to be a stay inside kind of day. I'm just going to have a quick check of the isobars as well, just to give you the winds. So it's looking, probably 50, 60 with the tightness of those isobars over middle of the week, maybe even gusting 70. Really, really strong winds, worse on the Wednesday. But all of that moving away in the third section of this, as stormy conditions come back with low pressure systems moving in, and that's happening to the weekend. Lots of precipitation, lots in the way of winds, and lots of colder air mass to be playing with. So look at how wet that is. This should hopefully be snow on the mountains, and this is just the trend for the second week. Really stormy, really lots of precipitation being pulled in. So the channel low sitting to the south of us here. This run's completely different to what I was looking at earlier, so I'm kind of making this up on the spot, and I'll look into a couple other charts in a second. But the channel low spins up, lots and lots of moisture here, clashing with this cold air to the north of us, and that's just going to dump so much snow. The freezing level is going to be dictating where that falls as rain and where that falls as snow, and it won't be particularly low. It won't be snow down to 300-400 meters with this kind of setup, but it will be a significant amount of snow to the crags, the bend, the northwest as well. That kind of jazz is going to be pretty good on like an easterly flow here. So with this ensemble, kind of similar story. We've got the temperatures rising towards the middle of next week and then dropping off fairly dramatically as well. And the day and night temperatures kind of oscillating as well. That's what this kind of fluctuation is. But the most important thing about this chart is I want to show you the precipitation increase significantly through next week and into the start of next week. So very quickly, I'm going to go through some of the different models. So here we've got the high pressure sitting over us, bringing a slight easterly flow, bringing us some colder air before the high pressure starts to dominate from the southwest, and that's hanging on for the middle of next week before getting squashed by a more westerly flow. And this is happening towards the weekend here, and you can see westerly flows with storm systems pushing and being the trend for the next while. The GFS doesn't have it as stormy, potentially the high pressure building in again, so that's just one to watch there. The Icon model, however, has the stormy conditions building in a bit more significantly towards the weekend. Here you can see the storm sitting slightly more further to the south. And the models are now tending to agree a bit more with this towards the weekend, looking quite stormy. But this is, it's a week away with some fairly difficult to predict conditions, so it is important to take all of this with a pinch of salt. And I'll just look at the Icon as well quickly. Again, it's got the storms moving towards us for next weekend, which is where the colder air is. The colder air is trapped to the north of us, so it's really good to see these storms. And lastly, I just wanted to show the GEM, just because it's very, very interesting. So the Wednesday midweek thaw coming through even early into Friday. We've got the colder conditions coming back and high pressure building over Iceland, which is very strange and would give way to a northeasterly flow, which would be quite dry and very, very cold. So it is all to play for next week. This kind of outlook would give really good condition. As the GFS is showing, it could be that the high pressure builds in again towards the end of next week, which wouldn't be too good. Whereas the GFS here has the stormy conditions not being able to fully dominate over this high pressure pattern into the middle of March. So it's all kind of to play for, and it's just important to watch carefully. But the overarching trend is we've got a couple of days of cold weather now. It's it's not the best conditions, but it's better than what it's going to be in the middle of next week. It's going to be extremely wet, warm, and thawing. Probably might break some records for the warmest temperatures in February in the south potentially. and then the temperatures cooling down as the westerly flows take over, dominating. So some really stormy condition, lots of moisture, lots in the way of wind, and that's happening towards next weekend. Potentially, this is where the uncertainty begins, as you know, we've got the high pressure building over to Iceland in some scenarios. That's quite rare. I'd be very surprised if that actually pulls off. And then some other ones have the high pressure building back in towards the middle of this week, starting on the 10th, which would just kind of ruin everything winter has. But the most likely one at the moment, I'd say, is probably a 60% chance, as these really stormy conditions, better than the thaw. As you know, we can go out and do wintry stuff, but it will be very unpleasant conditions when you do so. But otherwise, thank you very much for listening.